I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous to talk about IEMs. In my experience, in the circles where I often discuss audio devices and other related things, the IEM enthusiasts are just built different. So I'm fully expecting to be ripped to shreds in the comments by both IEM people who hate my opinions and the occasional viewer who leaves a comment telling me that VTubers are cringe. Bro, I'm well aware I'm cringe. There's no point in telling me something I already know. It's really hard to keep up with the new releases of IEMs nowadays because the market just moves so fast. It's not uncommon for someone to talk about an IEM they really like in an audio Discord server and have another user call them out and tell them that that IEM is totally irrelevant now, just completely unprovoked. And by someone, I mean me. It happened to me and it made me very upset. I really just wish people in this hobby would stop talking down to each other over their choices. It can really ruin the fun for people, but that's a video for another time. What do you mean it's not relevant anymore? My brother in Christ, we are talking about in-ear monitors, not fucking fighter jets. I'm of the opinion that just because new stuff gets released, it doesn't necessarily make old stuff worse. IEMs do get released that may be a better value than previous models, but sometimes they just don't fit with your vibe. Like, what if you just don't care for its frequency response? Yes, the IEM market is a highly competitive space, especially in the under $200 price category, but there's plenty of great IEMs from just a couple years ago that are still worth considering. The SimGot EM6L is an IEM that was released recently to much acclaim, but that doesn't make the Truthier Hexa a worse IEM now that it's a year older, but man, do I see people act like that's the case. Actually, the Truthier Hexa is pretty excellent. I don't think anyone is gonna fight me on that opinion. The IEM market has exploded over the past couple years, in particular due to the rise of Chi-Fi. We are living in a new golden age of high-fidelity portable listening. The market just moves so fast, and it can seem like an impossible task to try and keep up with all the new releases. A million new models are released every day, it seems, and many of them are probably pretty good. The IEMs from just a year ago are old news, even though that's not really that long ago. One of the biggest players, no doubt, is Moondrop. They're a really prominent and well-respected brand in the Chi-Fi space. Time and time again, Moondrop has released banger after banger that punches way above its weight. The Aria, the Blessing 2, the Starfield, they're all fantastic IEMs in their respective price range. Today, we're looking at one of their releases from about a year ago, which again, doesn't seem like that long, but in the IEM scene, that's like decades. That means that this IEM has been around long enough to be considered a certified hood classic. This IEM is also my daily driver. I rely on this thing to get me through work. The Moondrop Kato. Spoiler alert, I really like this IEM, and anyone who tells me it's irrelevant can choke on an empty box of raisins. This is Moondrop's flagship single dynamic driver IEM, and it has served me well in the 6 months that I've owned it. Oh yeah, and one more thing, Moondrop has waifus on the boxes, baby! Alright, jabroskis, let's get into the build quality. The build quality is really nice. It's an all-metal build with this beautiful blue finish. You can get these in 3 different colors, but in my opinion, this deep blue color looks absolutely incredible, and the fact that the whole IEM is made of metal gives me a lot of confidence that it'll last a long time. Some of Moondrop's IEMs used to have an issue with the paint peeling off a few months in because they're sensitive to moisture. I live in an area that gets really humid at times, and the paint on mine is still perfectly intact, which I'm very thankful for, but just because my paint is still okay doesn't mean it won't necessarily be an issue for you. It seems to mostly just be an issue with the OG Moondrop Aria, and I haven't heard reports of it happening with the Kato, but I still thought it was worth mentioning, so do with this information what you will. Though if you do own a Moondrop Kato and have experienced peeling paint, please let me know in the comments. I would like to know about that shit. You also get a really nice feeling cable that has virtually zero microphonic noise. It feels sturdy, it doesn't hold its shape, and it has good stress relief. It's also just a really stylish and beautiful looking cable. This cable is very high quality, and I'm a big fan of it. Of course, it is fully removable, so if you want to get a different one, you totally can. Removable cables are pretty standard on IEMs nowadays. Unfortunately, it only seems to ship with a 3.5mm jack, so if you want to use these with a device that outputs a balanced signal, you will need to get a replacement cable. Both the IEMs and the cable are quite premium feeling, and for just under $200 bucks, the build is spectacular. You also get a case! and it's a really good case. It's a little chunk, but I can fit it into my pocket, though if you wear skinny jeans or if you wear girls' pants, yeah, you ain't fitting it in there. My heart goes out to any female viewers of this channel. Maybe someday science will discover a means of giving you bigger pockets. I don't know, man, it feels like you probably would need like at least 2 doctorates in aerospace engineering in order to figure out how to do that shit. But hey, it's great that Moondrop includes a nice case like this. You also get both a full set of foam tips and Moondrop spring tips. Spring tips are a very good earbud tip, and I love to see Moondrop including them in their latest products. A feature that's really cool on the Kato is the replaceable nozzles that you can just screw on and off. You get these silver ones, and you get a set of brass ones. Each of these changes the tuning slightly, and I prefer the sound of the brass ones just a little bit more. But because they're made of brass, they are going to corrode over time, so they're not quite as practical as the silver-colored ones, which are made of stainless steel. Though, the fact that they're removable also makes them easy to clean if they get clogged up. So, again, overall, this is a feature that I really like. Comfort. I'm not going to talk too much about comfort on these, because comfort with IEMs is a lot more specific than headphones, since everyone has different ear shapes. Just because I may find an IEM comfortable doesn't necessarily mean that you will. That being said, I do find them quite comfortable. The shape of the Kato conforms well to the shape of a person's ear despite how it looks. I know it's got this kind of low poly angular design going on, but trust me, they're a lot more comfortable than they look. And the nozzles aren't too big, so they're easy to insert, and once they're in my ears, they're secure. This also makes them more comfortable than something with a really big nozzle, and they seal perfectly in my ear canal. So I'm a big fan of Moondrop spring tips. They're one of the only tips on the market that don't slide out of my ears once they're in. I have really weird ears, and a lot of earbud tips just don't fit me right. A lot of people also really like foam tips, which Moondrop also includes. They're just not for me, and I think they changed the tuning too dramatically for my personal taste, but lots of people are fans of both these styles of ear tips, so there's a good chance that you're gonna like them too. But you can always just replace the tips with your favorite ones that you personally find the most comfortable. I also highly recommend SpinFit W1s, so that's all I have to say for comfort. It is good. Alright, let's talk sound quality. This IEM is very chilled out in terms of its overall sound quality, and 2 aspects of it really stand out. The first one being how it's tuned. It's a frequency response that a lot of people are going to find very pleasant. The Kato has this overall dark sounding tuning with a bit of mid-range forwardness and a recessed upper treble. I feel like IEMs that go for a bassy sound signature are often too afraid to increase the mid-bass, and instead focus entirely on the sub-bass to have it adhere more closely to the Harman target. What that often results in is a sound that's rumbly and makes music feel like it has a lot of depth, but it can be a bit lacking in terms of warmth and impact. It's very satisfying, but I tend to think it's not very exciting. It just seems like a lot of IEMs are afraid to venture into giving us just a bit more mid-bass. The Kato, on the other hand, does give us a little bit more mid-range, and it sounds very good. It adds that warmth and punch that I often find myself craving while avoiding having any mid-bass bloat. It manages to be impactful and rumbly and also very fast. It doesn't have quite as much of a sub-bass presence as the Harman target, yet it doesn't roll off at all, so it keeps the bass sounding very rumbly. A lot of rock and jazz recordings from the 70s tend to have bass drum kicks that are a little flat sounding, but through the Kato, it gives them a really nice impact that makes them sound like they have a little bit of extra oomph to them. Like, they go from sounding kinda dead to sounding nice and fat. Steely Dan through these are a super fun time. Definitely give that a listen if you pick these up. My reference IEM that I like to use as a comparison is the Truthier Hexa. It's a very neutral sounding IEM with just a bit more treble that gives it some added detail. And at $80, it's a very competent IEM with outstanding technical capabilities for the money. This is what the IEMs that I review are up against. While I do like the Hexa, I find its bass response to be a little bit lackluster. It gives you just enough sub-bass to fill out the music, but again, I really would like just a little bit more punch. So you can see here why I'd prefer the Kato for casual listening over the Hexa. And then it's very clear through the mid-range. Right here where the ear gain region starts around the 1 to 2K mark, it's a bit more elevated, meaning vocals in this area are going to sound very forward and intimate. This is really good if you like to listen to male vocals especially. Like, man, Sinatra through the Moondrop Kato sounds absolutely heavenly. His voice just sounds really rich and full in recordings, so if you're a fan of Frank Sinatra and you also enjoy a little bit of extra bass, the Kato is an excellent choice. The treble is very smooth. You can see that it kinda dips below the ear gain target, and this is gonna make it sound a little bit dark. So there's a trade-off. On one hand, this makes the sound signature very laid back and non-fatiguing for long listening sessions, which is exactly why I daily drive it, but it's gonna sacrifice some of that airiness and crispness on vocals. There's a small upper treble lift that keeps it from sounding too dark, but I do still find that it lacks breadth. Instruments for the most part sound very rounded and smooth due to this, so you probably will be disappointed if you like that extra breathy quality. I think for some people, the treble is gonna be what either makes or breaks it. It's not a sound profile that's as well suited to critical listening compared to some other IEMs that are similarly priced, like the 7Hz Timeless for example. Though, the problem with the 7Hz Timeless is it's got a pretty peaky treble that some people are gonna find a little bit spicy, or un poco caliente if you speak Spanish.
I believe you mean es español.
It's not entirely devoid of all treble. Cymbals and sibilant sounds are still plenty audible, but the trail end of notes are they're a little bit lacking in crispness, and they do still sound overall pretty smooth and rounded. But again, it's still a really pleasant tuning that aims more towards enhancing the sound and making it suitable for long listening sessions rather than going for a more clinical sound. It's very relaxing, and that makes it well suited for all music genres. The timbre of the Kato is another one of its strengths. It manages to make recordings just sound so rich and full and just very natural. It's very addicting in this way because instruments just sound so satisfying and clear. Out of all of the IEMs I own, this is the one that is the most natural sounding. This IEM is also very resolving. Again, I'll compare it against the Hexa since I think it's a really good reference point. With the Hexa, instruments sound really nice still, but they do have a bit of an edgier kind of quality to their sound. The Hexa also sounds a little bit more artificial than the Kato, though the Hexa slightly edges out the Kato in terms of pure detail. The Kato's imaging capabilities are decent, but it's not something that this IEM excels at. They do well with left and right imaging, but they kinda sound like there's a bit of a dead zone in the middle. Its center imaging is definitely a weak spot, and there's not a whole lot of forward and back imaging either. Again, the Hexa is slightly better than the Kato when it comes down to imaging capabilities. The Kato is also decent with detail, but the darker sounding treble is going to lead to less perceived detail as a result. Instrument separation is about what I'd expect for this price. It's pretty good. Nothing really I can add. It's just, solid. So to sum up the sound, the Kato's major strengths are the very pleasant tuning that makes it great for long listening sessions, along with its lush and rich timbre that I haven't heard on other IEMs before. The extra mid-bass is something I personally really like as it gives kick drums extra impact, though its perceived detail isn't as good as some other IEMs due to its darker treble, and its imaging is competent, but it's nothing spectacular. However, I gotta admit, the waifus on the box are definitely a plus, and yes, they do make IEMs sound better than non-waifu box IEMs. I don't care what anyone says. Waifu box IEM supremacy. I mean, look at her, she's adorable. Do I recommend it? Yes. IEMs are in a really chaotic spot right now with how fast the market moves. As I'm speaking, there's a good chance a hot new IEM just released, and some asshole in the comments is probably gonna call me out and be like, actually, this IEM ain't even competitive anymore. I don't care. Regardless of new releases, at 190 bucks, the Kato is still worth the money in my opinion. It's a very enjoyable sound that's great for when I'm just trying to get some work done, and I bought it specifically for that reason. Moondrop has a history of releasing IEMs that completely redefine the price bracket, and often they compete with themselves. Still, they have that longevity that keeps people talking about them even in a market as crazy as this, and the Kato is no exception. There are a lot of options in this price bracket to choose from, but I hope among your considerations is the Moondrop Kato. I love this thing. Also, yes, I am biased, and while I am speaking pretty highly of it, please don't just listen to me. I also highly encourage you to go out and do your own research, as with any product. Wait. The SimGot EA1000 just dropped? Oh shit, this review is irrelevant now. God damn it. Okay, goodbye, Kato. Oh, but what's this? The Apple EarPods are coming in with the steel chair! They win Apple EarPods! It's the undefeated champion!